Welcome to our course, Acquiring Skills in Python. And in this part of our lesson, we're going to study how to use strings and how to implement strings and how to process strings, of course, using Python. So what is string, first and foremost? Strings are actually used to store text data. In technical term, it's string, and in layman's term, we call that one text. So maybe you would want to ask me, are all text strings? So does it mean to say that only these characters can be strings? What about numbers? These are just the few questions that we're going to deal with. So here we have an example. So we have a song, which is our variable, and we store the word or the string ballad in this variable. So we're going to execute this one and let's see. Okay, so now the text ballad is now stored in the variable song. So what about if we're going to take numbers as our string? How do we do that? It's just very simple. We just enclose numbers in not parentheses, quotation mark. It can be double, it can be single quotation mark. So let's have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And let's see what this one would be. So there you go. It is now a string. Because if you're going to take these quotation marks, then as you could see, it is now transformed into an integer. So it should be enclosed with quotation marks, right? So there you go. So Python stores text as a sequence of characters. So it must be in order. So Python always takes note of the order in which these different characters in a string are arranged. And that is always be in a sequence form. Again, it must be in an order form. How do we access this particular character of a string? It's very simple. We index that to access a certain character in a specific memory location. So when we say specific memory location, let's have this word ballad as an example. In indexing, we always take note of its position, and the position starts with the 0. So B, for example, is 0, position 0. A is position 1, L is position 2, L is 3, A is D, and D is position number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's position number 5. So for example, we would like to index the position or the index number 0 in the word ballad. So what that letter would be. So that's okay. Now we have it is B. So what about 2? What this one is? It is letter L. Why? Because we start with 0. So 0, 1, 2. So L is number 2. So that is if we're going to start from from left to right. We can also do indexing by starting from right to the left. So with that case, we start with -1. So the D here is -1, A is -2, L is -3, A is -5, B is -6. So for example, we have song, let's index -1. What letter is that? That is letter D. What about -3? That is L. What about 7? -7. Okay, so string index out of range. The reason for that is we only have 6 characters in our word or in our string. So that's why -7 is not a part of the range of the index. So let's have -6 and we will be given letter B. So strings are immutable. So which means to say when you create it, once they are created, you cannot change them. So for example, as a proof, so we would want to change index 0 from B to F. So let's execute this one. So string object does not support item assignment. So we can also create an index by indexing letters from whatever position would that be going to a certain position. So for example, we would want to index 0 to 3. So what that would be is, so we have bal. So 0, 1, 2. So maybe you are wondering why from 3 here, why we only have bal instead of bal with 2 letters. The reason for that is we start with 0 and that ends with here, number 2 in this case. That means we do not include number 3, okay, based on the index position, right? So let's have, what about this one? What does this one mean? So as you could see, we have different output. The reason for that is here, if we don't write the beginning, that is before the colon, it means to say that it's still a beginning, even if we don't identify 0. So it starts from 0 going to 3. What about this one? What this one is? Okay, this one is lad. So what about this one? So this one is lad 2. So this one has the same effect with this one. This, though we don't signify ending in this case and the beginning in this case, but it's automatic for Python to give us the beginning or the end of the index. Here in our case, we use here double quote. We can also use a single quote if we're going to use a string. So let's have this one, right? But in some cases, we use double quote and single quotes all together, all at once. The reason for that is, for example, let's have this. Let's see if there's an error. So we're going to use everything is single quotes. Okay, so there's an error. So invalid syntax. The reason for this is that here we use single, and because we use here single, it must be enclosed with double. So let's change, and so we could see the result. Okay, now it's working. And also, if we use here double, the outside would be single. Say, for example, in this case, as you could see, the word Titanic is enclosed in double quotation marks, and we use single quotation marks to enclose this sentence. So let's see. Okay, now, so you could see it's working. In some cases too, you could see that we use triple quotation marks, triple quotes. So when do we use that? We use that when we have multi-line strings. So in this case, how many lines do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 lines of strings. That's why we use here multi quotes. In this case, we have triple quotes. So let's execute this. It's working. Now what about, let's have an experiment. We will just use one. Okay. See, it's now an error. So as you could see, these things here do not turn into red. Only this one is turned into red. Okay, the reason is we use a wrong quotation marks. So we're going to add. Okay. So it must be just 3. You know, it's working. As you could see, we use here print. What about if we don't use the word print in this case, the function print? What would be the outcome? So as you could see here, instead of spaces, and then next in line, then we could see here slash then n. So it means to say that new line. So we can also concatenate strings by using a plus sign. So for example, we have in this case, A is for good and B is for morning. So we add A and B, then that becomes good morning. But the problem in this case is this is not actually one word. So there should be some space between good and morning. So what we do here is we do like this. So A plus, then we have here a space, we add space and then plus B, and there you have now the result. So Python cannot concatenate string and number. That's a big no-no. It's because they are of different types. So for example, we have this. It's wrong because we can only concatenate string to string, and integer and integer can be done. But in that case, we use mathematical operations like addition, subtraction, and so on and so forth. So in that case, we need to convert one to the other string so that they are consistent with each other. Say, for example, let's have, okay, then, so we have my age is 28, but then again, some space is missing. So let's have this one, then we add this, and it's better if we're going to have period. Okay, so now it's, so we can also convert string using str. So for example, apart from doing like this, we can also do strs because in the real world, if we're doing analysis, we're actually dealing with large numbers, and doing this one by one is not practical, and sometimes it's impossible when you have millions of data. So we just do this one string, and then we can convert the D to string already. And we can have like this, and we have the same result just a while ago without the space, and adding space and the period, we could have this. So now we have my age is 28. Do you want to know more about this channel? Just click these cards. We do have a lot of free data science courses for free, like Machine Learning Essentials, Deep Learning Mathematics, and a lot more. Here, you can always learn an upskill for free.